of the different ways that INEC can rig the 2027 elections, the one that scares me most is what I want to talk about in this video. It scares me thoroughly. Many people have realized it, but there are still a lot more that have not realized it. That for Tinubu and the APC to continue beyond 2027, they cannot allow free and fair election. They cannot allow it. The only way a Tinubu continues beyond 2027 is by rigging the election. The only other way is to make sure that Peter Obi did not get ticket. But he has failed in that front. Peter Obi has ticket now. But right now, their only option is being reduced to rigging the 2027 elections. Now, some are arguing that 2027 election is already rigged. They are saying that Tinubu has already written the results for the 2027 election. Is this true? What I can say here is this. Anybody that pushes this narrative is a propagandist. Is a Tinubu propagandist. They want to drive this in order to achieve the first type of rigging, which is voter apathy. 2027 election has not been rigged. 2027 election results have not been written. Are there persons planning to rig it? Sure. But has it been rigged? No. Will Nigerians allow anybody, whether it is Tinubu, whether it is Atiku, will Nigerians allow anybody to rig the 2027 election? The answer is no. Is there a way to stop INEC or any candidate for that matter, or any political party? Is there a way to stop them from rigging the 2027 election? The answer is yes. And that way is Vote Watch and Polling Unit Marshal. People-powered, independently verifiable, parallel vote tabulation platform. Totally legal, totally allowed by law. Because it's not a platform for declaring or announcing winners. Only INEC is allowed to do that. But political parties, civil society organizations are allowed by the Electoral Act, by Nigerian Constitution, to collect their data from the polling unit for their own consumption. They are allowed to do so. But now, let us look at the method of rigging that scares me most. Because I know that with Vote Watch, we can stop rigging, but only if we understand thoroughly how they are planning to rig 2027. In a previous video, we talked about the 5 types of rigging. Rigging by voter apathy, rigging by voter disenfranchisement, rigging by voter intimidation, rigging by vote manipulation, rigging by judiciary compromise. Those are the 5 types of rigging. And we went into details where it becomes very critical for Nigerians to prepare very, very well is the rigging by vote manipulation. And that happens on election day. Rigging by vote manipulation. In 2023, we were all witness to INEC's glitch, where servers that were working before, worked for senatorial elections, worked for Federal House of Rep elections, all of a sudden could not work for the presidential election. They called it a glitch. Till date, they've not explained what that glitch is. But from observing the elections after 2023, a dangerous pattern begins to emerge. Very dangerous pattern. And why it is actually very dangerous is because nobody has caught that pattern. Everybody just knows that, oh, after the polling unit results have been processed, Form EC8A has been filled, it has been snapped using the beavers and uploaded to IREV. Then the INEC presiding officer takes the result, escorted by police, and goes to collation center. From that ward collation center, which is the first collation center, before they go on to the local government collation center, before they go to the state collation center, before they go to the national collation center, from that ward collation center, that is where the manipulation of votes happen. Now, we are all witnesses to how political party collation center agents have been compromised to allow manipulation of results at the different levels of collation. We have seen that. So that's a risk factor that any serious political party should take steps to mitigate going on to the 2027 election. But here is the thing that nobody has talked about. And it's around what happens between the beavers and IREV on the one hand, and then what happens between the polling unit and the collation center, the final collation center. Those are the two dangerous points. And that is where this dangerous pattern begins to unearth itself, but is still hiding in plain sight. Hiding in plain sight. Now, think about this. After the results are processed in the polling unit, the presiding officer, the INEC presiding officer, uses the beavers to take a picture of Form EC8A that has been processed. They upload it to IREV. There is network. Everything goes smoothly. But there's still a problem. A problem that many people have noticed, but they have not realized how big a problem it is. If the INEC presiding officer processes Form EC8A, takes a picture of it and uploads by 4 p.m., for example, election closed by 2:30, everything went smoothly, they started by 8 a.m., accreditation, voting, everything, everybody in queue has finished voting by 2:30 p.m. And then they do the sorting, they do the counting, and then they process the Form EC8A. And then by 4 p.m., everything is ready. The presiding officer, the INEC presiding officer, takes the beavers, takes a snapshot of the Form EC8A, and uploads it to IREV at 4 p.m. Now, here is a critical question. Will Nigerians see that IREV result in real time on the IREV portal? Let's take away that real time. Let's rephrase the question in a more practical way. If the INEC presiding officer for a particular polling unit took a snapshot of the Form EC8A that is already processed by 4 p.m. and uploaded, everything went smoothly. There was network, successful upload. All the agents of the different political parties sees it. They are witness that the Form EC8A has been uploaded to IREV at 4 p.m. on election day. Question: at what time will Nigerians see that polling unit result uploaded to IREV on IREV? How many of you have bothered to check? Most times it takes at least 4 hours. 4 hours. So what happened? Why would a result be uploaded by 4 p.m. and then we are only seeing it on iRev by 8 p.m. at the least? In some cases, it goes on to sometimes 10 hours before you see it on iRev. What is going on here? This is where the most dangerous part of the most dangerous risk to the 2027 election is. I perceive from my experience of IT that there is a buffer server. There is a buffer server between the Beavers machine and the public-facing iRev portal. There is a buffer. So if a presiding officer for INEC takes the Beavers shot at the polling unit and uploads, it doesn't go directly to that public-facing INEC server, iRev portal. It doesn't. It first of all goes to a buffer server. That buffer server is a ghost. It is a spirit. It is transparent. What happens in that buffer server? That buffer server does automatic electronic collation to give a clear picture of exactly what has gone on across the polling unit. And so from my suspicion, persons who have access to that server can now determine how to balance and counterbalance the vote, manipulate the from EC8A that have been uploaded. It is when they have done it to their heart's content and they are satisfied that they will now push it to the public-facing iRev portal. That is why, in my opinion, in my experienced opinion, that is why there is a delay of at least 4 hours between when the iRev, the Beavers takes the picture of from EC8A at the polling unit, and when the public, the Nigerian public, will see that same result on the iRev portal. At least 4 hours. Many people are calling for an independent audit, validation of INEC system before the election. Is this going to be useful or helpful in any way? The answer is no. Why? Because call all the political parties together, bring their representative to INEC to do an audit of the system. IPAC, whoever, civil society organizations, bring them together to do an audit. At the point of doing the audit, all they simply need to do is just remove the buffer server and point iRev directly to the public-facing, point the Beavers directly to the public-facing iRev portal. That's all they'll do. So when you come, you audit the system, everything will go smoothly. But on election day, you just insert the buffer server back. Guess what? And this is why it is extremely dangerous and risky to the 2027 election. In 2023, we all witnessed the glitch. My fear is that in 2027, we won't even notice the glitch. We won't notice the glitch. Election results will be uploaded safely and successfully from the polling unit, but there will be a delay before Nigerians will see it in the public-facing iRev portal. There will be a delay. The excuse they will give will be that, if there is no network, it will upload and stay somewhere first. And it is when the returning officer gets into where there is network, then the thing will now go into INEC's iRev portal. This will be their excuse. But is it the truth? No. The truth is that there is 99% likelihood that that buffer server will operate in stealth mode, in ghost mode, transparently, that Nigerians will not notice it. And that is what will cause for the delay between the 4 p.m. time that the Form EC8A was uploaded in a particular polling unit and the 8 p.m. time that Nigerians will now see that that result on the IREF portal. What they are doing is what Nigerians have been calling for. That buffer server can do real-time transmission and real-time collation. Immediately that Beaver's machine takes that picture and uploads, the result across all the polling units is already clear. INEC has that capacity. It's just that they are hiding it in that buffer server. INEC has it. I can say it that INEC has it. They can deny it. But with the amount of resources that they have and the great extent they go to, I know they have it. If they don't have it, they should be jailed for not having it, considering the huge resources that we expend on election. But they do have it. Because if we can have it, we as Nigerians can have a platform like votewatch.pro that does this same thing. Real-time result transmission, real-time result collation. If we can do it as citizens, why can't INEC? In fact, I can say that INEC has it, but they will use it in the buffer. And that will result in a glitch that will not be noticeable. And by the time Nigerians go to court, it will be too late. This is the biggest threat to Nigeria's 2027 election. But the good news is this. Even though INEC can hide it very, very well and get away with hiding it, votewatch.pro will expose this rigging method. It will expose it. The other part is what happens in the collation gap. It is closely linked with what goes on in that buffer gap. The results are supposed to be gauged against what goes on the IREV. So in the collation center, if the presiding officer brings the results from the polling unit, the INEC collation center officer is supposed to check that physical form EC8A with the IREV version. But if the IREV version is now not available, or it has been doctored in that buffer part before it is sent to the public-facing IREV portal, what happens is that you are now left in a situation where there is discrepancies between what came from the polling unit and what is on IREV. And guess what? If there's going to be any resistance, it will be the opposition collation center agents. And so, to take care of that resistance, what do riggers now do? They resort to compromising the collation center agents, even of political parties, opposition political parties. That is another big, big risk. But guess what? VoteWatch also takes care of this. So, having said all that I've said now, I want to ask you a question. Can you understand the risk in this rigging method? Do you think that Nigerians can detect that risk, that rigging method, if it happens? And what is your idea or suggestion for a solution to counter that? We need to talk about this so that we can inspire Nigerians to come out, to come and vote, so that we'll strike out number one, voter apathy. Education and voter education and awareness campaign will take care of voter disenfranchisement. Voter intimidation will be handled by massive voter turnout. But you see, vote manipulation can only be handled by a parallel vote tabulation. And once you have that parallel vote tabulation, then you have all the evidence that you need to tie the hands of the judiciary. So, election of 2027 will now become unriggable only if we apply these solutions. So share your thoughts with us, what your ideas are to counter all the rigging strategies. God bless you, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.